Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, May 29th. We're approaching the end of the month and we have a tavern brawl, and tomorrow the next section of the single player expansion should unlock. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't have unlocked.
That we will win over the merchant
so
district.
Tomorrow we'll have a special stream for that. I talked about how I was thinking about doing a special live stream spring cleaning event of the follow list, and what happened is I accidentally hit the wrong button and just started recording it. So now I'm in the middle of recording the spring cleaning videos, which will be long videos that air probably in December again, and we will going forward have a 6-month issue in which around the end of May, March, what month are we in? May? Yeah, around the end of May every year I'll do a cleanup of either the wish list or the follow list, and around December I'll do a cleanup of either the other thing. So if I do the follow list now, I'll do the wish list at the end of the year, and that footage that I record at the end of the year won't air until next year around this time, or maybe not till December, because I may not need to really do 2 cleanups going forward as we're kind of catching up here. The Tavern Brawl is the 207th Brawl Spectacular Pick a Brawl. Will load up with a random class and a deck based on the Brawl's rules. So, let's see. Play a minion and get a random spell at the same cost, but it's for free. Start a game with Dorothy. She grants charge to the left and taunt to the right. Play a minion to complete your quest and get an awesome treasure. Every minion you play will generate a 1/1 clone. Summoned minions have death rattle. Summon a minion that costs 2 less. All of your minions become crushed into a single powerful entity of light. Your deck will be made of random legendary minions, each cloned 4 times. Each turn your cards costs are randomized. Your spells summon a random minion at the same cost. So they picked 9 of what you might argue are the best Tavern Brawls that have happened in, I guess, 2017. And so if you were truly going to experience this Tavern Brawl, which is just a compilation of previous Tavern Brawls, you'd have to play it 9 times, which I don't think I'll be doing. In fact, with the way things are spinning, we may have a quick disconnect win very instantaneously here. This also is weird on the back end side of things, because it means that either I'm playing against somebody who potentially has a different set of rules in the different Tavern Brawl that they're playing, or I'm playing against a much smaller subsection of people who would be playing the Tavern Brawl. I do want to warn that it is storming across a lot of the United States, and in my area somewhat too, and I've seen the power flicker a little bit. So, oh, he does have a different brawl. Interesting. So it's brawl versus brawl, different rules. So there is a possibility, hopefully not, that the power will go out. If the power goes out, then my internet connection would be disconnected. Eventually my battery backup would shut down my computer. That would be kind of terrible, because I have right now somewhere between 70 and 100% of my RAM filled up with tabs that are open while I'm doing the follow list cleanup, and that's gonna cause, has been causing problems from from the get-go, but it will only cause more problems if I have to try and reload all those tabs a second time because the computer shut down. Steam certainly does not like it when you open more than 50 tabs at the same time from their website. It looks like a denial of service attack. It really isn't, but it certainly could be understood for being confused as one. And this cleanup in particular has inspired me to, when I build my next computer, put at least 64 gigs of RAM in it, just for the power usage that I'm doing with having so many Chrome tabs open. I'm also in a weird position because I've effectively stopped right in the middle of playing the Doom reboot to do this Steam cleanup, and that's not generally how I want to do recordings. It also would have been smarter just to save hard drive space and have the game come out, finish the game first, finish the Doom reboot, and then have done the spring cleanup. And so going forward, that definitely would be the case. I'm done, but I've already committed. I've already opened all the tabs. There's so much RAM being used. If I was to try to launch a game like Doom 2016, it would probably run pretty terribly, and so there's too much of a danger on that. I
must consider.
So after this recording today, I'll probably later in the evening do some more cleanup work in games starting with the letter E, and we'll have to just continue to work on it. Some of these, every single letter is taking at least 2 hours, so it's a case of a game that it's going to be at least 52 hours of recording that I'm gonna have to try and power through. But then the letter D took 4 hours to get through, and if I had known it was going to be that long, I would have broken it into 2 recordings. But it's probably better not to do that. I will have to break up the letter T, because that's going to be something that goes on forever. One of the things I learned, and I very rarely get a chance to learn anything new or that I could do with OBS, the open broadcast software that I use, is there's a plugin to blur things and do other kinds of visual effects.
And your tale will end.
Let's see. On each player's turn, the first card played cost 0. Nice. What was I talking about? Man, I lost it. So I figured out how to blur things. Now, for the web peak feature on Hearthstone, I don't see why it would be particularly helpful for me to web peak on an adult game and then have that adult game be shown in a blurred fashion, since we already have better footage and more interesting footage. But when doing the cleanup, I've got it set up where I can just bring the mouse cursor over here to the left and it will blur the screen so I can look at the screenshots, see if they're not family friendly. Honestly, by the time I do the next wish list or follow list cleanup, I think there will be a pretty good argument to be said that Steam has cleaned up its storefront and there won't be any screenshots that include actual nudity or or just not family-friendly screenshots, even if the game is an adult game full of nudity and un-YouTube-friendly content. So I think that will be not an issue going forward, but I can blur things live. Unfortunately, if I'm playing a game, like Honey Pop, for example, which would be the main adult game I've played that required a decent amount of blurring, it's usually so quick and so incidental that something gets on the screen. So something may pop up, and then for 5 seconds I don't see that it's on the screen, and then I'd have to try and blur it. And if I was doing this while I was recording a game, it would probably have to be a quick key, not moving the mouse to an edge. So I'd have to then reach over and tap some shortcut key on my keyboard, and
I must protect the wild.
It's really not likely that live during production you could blur things. That is why for everything that has ever been made recently, they implemented the FCC mandated 7-second delay or longer, 7-second delay or longer, which I guess theoretically I could also do that. It's possible I could put in a delay and then have a blur button where I could hold down the button for up to 7 seconds after I see something, and it would get to 7 seconds before it, and then you would just hold down the button, I guess, for 7 seconds to make sure you get all of it. And if you're still seeing content that needs to be blurred after 7 seconds, you just keep holding the button down. So that might fix that, but that would also potentially add some weirdness to it. And the 7-second delay honestly was only designed so that somebody could beep something being said. It becomes a lot harder to do visual blurring, and my blurring method is not going to be very complicated. It's just going to be a full screen blur or go to black effect, which I guess blurring is better than going to black. There are definitely some tricks that could be played to only blur a part of a screen, but it would have to be the exact part of a screen every time. I suppose I might be able to do something like that with the chat window that's being blocked right now, and so we could get rid of the black background and YouTube chat, but I would have to think about how I'd want to implement that, and whether the solution is better or worse than the leaving it alone option. We do have a decent amount of news and games today, and since my Great Suspender extension, that plugin is suspended, not being used on Steam, that means every Steam page is loaded for every new game that's come out. Also, the deduplicator extension crashed because of so many tabs being open, so we may very well have a lot of those as an issue.
A million retort is in the way. For the wilds.
So let's go through the news, because today may just be another relatively short stream. It may be a stream where I just get through all the news and then I choose to play some stuff off screen. So the first game we have on Steam I'm looking at is a tile slide puzzle game, tag sexual content and nudity, but like I said before, they seem to be cleaning up the screenshot rules, so all the screenshots look fine. So we have a game here called H-Chan Girl, which H I assume stands for hentai, which is the mistranslation. Actually, H in Japanese should be translated to ecchi, but I'll leave that for linguistics to do and worry about. Again, not a game worth playing. It's like 8 slide tile puzzles. It's $1.19 discounted. It says it supports a bunch of language. It has a ton of achievements. It's clearly an achievement game. But that being said, seeing games like this coming out on Steam, particularly I would say that the art in this low effort slide puzzle game is pretty top notch for anime pictures, so I don't know if they are original art or if this is just somebody that found pictures somewhere or actually licensed the pictures. But yeah, the thing to take away from this is these are the canaries in the coal mine. These are the types of games that specifically are going to tell us Steam is not backtracking on censorship. As I was doing the Steam fall list cleanup, I did run into an issue where I ran into one Chinese game that had considerably far too many reviews and that were far too positive. And as I was looking at the game, at first I went into a long rant talking about how Steam has agreed at this point and opened the door to positive review bombs and view manipulation. And just coincidentally, the game I'm talking about, while I'm talking about this, the game on screen is a game that almost certainly did that. And I haven't seen a lot of games on the follow list that felt like they didn't deserve the review score they got. But this game in particular looked far too simplistic to have 400 reviews in less than 6 months. 400 reviews in less than 6 months, and for most games is a ridiculously high number. Most of the games on the follow list don't even have 20 reviews in 6 months. Just because there's so much competition and so few people review games on Steam. So, yeah. I am a little more afraid now that there will be positive review bombs and review manipulation than there will be outright censorship on Steam. Which is still, these are problems, but at least it's a step in the right direction. Because at the end of the day, I'd rather a game be uncensored and sold on Steam and then have trouble with being review bombed or the reviews being manipulated to a positive or negative false metric, then I would like the opposite. I mean, what's the point of having a game on Steam if it has to be censored but the reviews are accurate at that point? Of course, the nefarious thing about censorship in the reviews is it's shifting the narrative and manipulating free speech. So you could easily see over the course of a few years a concerted effort to put negative reviews on like Japanese visual novels or adult games in general, just to make it look like people really don't like those styles of games, when the sales numbers seem to clearly show that adult games sell very well and they often are reviewed very positively. So it's not a case of people are just not thinking with their brains and buying games and then not being happy with their purchase. People who buy adult games on Steam are, for the most part, rather happy with what their purchase was.
Back, beast.
There we go. So, yeah.
Ready to glow.
Steam looks like it's making progress and going in the right direction. I can't really complain about anything it's doing so far. I would say the spring cleanup sale was a weird one. It's almost like that they're just admitting that most people have already bought all the games that they really want to buy on Steam, and so instead of just having a bunch of games on sale, they decided to try and get people to play their old games. Let's see. Play 4 minions. That's not a smart move. But, you know, give it 6 months and I might have another complaint about Steam. Things certainly could change. There's some stories I know off the top of my head that may not be mentioned here, so I'd like to cover them just very quickly. We have to roll back the counter as far as days since we last talked about Randy Pitchford, the CEO of Gearbox. And the weird thing here in particular is, I would say the last thing I had to say about Randy Pitchford was that one of the executives, one of the high managers, left working for Gearbox to take another job, and Randy Pitchford tweeted out, or at least the tweet I saw, an appropriate thank you for working for us, we'll always love you style tweet response. It's like we'll miss you type response. It wasn't a we'll hate you, we never liked you, you're dead to us type response that I in no way would be surprised if Randy Pitchford had tweeted something like that out. So that being said, it does the evidence that Randy Pitchford is actually on tilt and potentially mentally unstable seems to be growing with his latest tweet feed, and people have now stopped following him as much as they used to, and I personally stopped following his Twitter feed at least 6 months ago because he was just not tweeting out things around Gearbox or things around Borderlands and the games. But his most recent tweet, he tweeted out a video, he retweeted a video that the original poster of this video's account has since been suspended, where clearly, as it was described to me, I did not want to watch this video and I wouldn't recommend anybody watching it. Clearly somebody put a cat and a crab in a box and basically were doing fights between the cat and the crab, and so it's an animal cruelty video. And then it seems like Randy Pitchford was trying to explain away why he retweeted this video as if it was some kind of social experiment explanation, which frankly nobody in their right mind would buy. Why he would tweet out this video makes no sense. It has nothing to do with video games, it has nothing to do with Magic, it has nothing to do with being a CEO. I can't directly quote what his text when he retweeted the video was, but it was something along the lines of "it makes me think," and then the question is, what does it make you think, and what are you thinking putting this, and is your line of thinking something that should land you in a loony bin? And yes, in all fairness, this narrative that Randy Pitchford has literally lost his mind could very well just be a narrative that's being pushed by lots of people, but I'm not trying to push a narrative here. It does seem like his understanding of what would be appropriate to say or do has gone out the window.
Neither snow nor rain nor wind.
Let's see.
Move!
2 damage to all minions except demons.
Almost out of time.
And in the turn. So yeah, he did something weird again. I don't know why you would want to ever watch a video of a crab basically torturing a cat. There's very little a cat could do to hurt a crab unless the crab had rubber bands around its pinchers. Quite frankly, a crab could probably severely hurt even a human with its claws free. I don't think a dog would do very well against a crab either. Crabs are mean and nasty, and they have very sharp pinchers and claws and very hard bodies and shells. So both animals probably would suffer damage in a fight, but they're also not natural predators of each other and would not really eat each other. But even at that, there's a difference between what happens in nature uninfluenced by a human and a video where you're putting 2 very disconnected animals in a small space, encouraging them to fight and recording the video for best I can tell, YouTube kicks. Alright. Cost 1 less for each enemy minion. Well, I could kill this.
Move!
There we go. Let's see, so is there any other story? Apparently a bunch of yahoos were putting up copyrighted content and it seems mostly pornography on Twitch under the category of Artifacts Valve's card game. It seemed to be a coordinated effort and more than just one person doing it. And it does go to show that there are some flaws in the Twitch system, whereas YouTube would not have been such a big deal if somebody tried to do the same thing on YouTube, because I think YouTube would catch it a lot faster or handle it a lot quieter. The fact that it became moderately big news is questionable.
Almost out of time.
So, yeah, that happens, and there's really not a lot to say other than Twitch has the same kind of problems that YouTube has as far as maintaining maintaining a family-friendly environment. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Dreadbone Drifters, which seems like it's an RPG or flying shooting game. I've been staring at these screenshots for a while and I still really don't know what this game is. Yeah, it looks like a shoot 'em up style game or a platform shooter with some fast-paced action and some 8-bit graphics. And it's an early access and it's $4.49 English full audio. as the languages. After doing a lot of cleanup on the fall list, I've realized that my standards as far as quality have gone up quite a bit. And so when I look at Dreadbone Drifters here, it really does not look like something that even deserves to be on the fall list. Going forward, I think the fall list in particular is going to become more of a content, more of a list of really good games, or games that are very close to being really good, versus being a list of games that maybe they're good, maybe they're not, or they're in early access and they look kinda good. So many of the games that I'm doing in the looking at in the fall list are getting removed from the fall list. It is about 90% of the games, because the wish list is already big. Wish list already has, I think, 1,000 games on it. So standards and reality need to increase and coincide to what is the realistic number of games I could actually play and cover in the rest of my lifetime on Steam or on YouTube, or perhaps there's a few games that I want to own that I won't ever play. Some of the adult games I could see myself buying and never playing, but I definitely don't want to get in the habit of just spending money to support the industry. I'm not certainly that financially stable to try and do something like that. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Nine Dragons Kung Fu Arena, which looks like a Chinese player versus player game. It's early access, free to play, multiplayer only. It's English, Korean, and simplified Chinese. I don't think inherently there's anything terrible with this game. It's just a multiplayer game I wouldn't want to play. Being so Asian-centric in its themes, it probably won't gain a lot of popularity in the West, so it probably won't gain enough popularity in general. When you compare this to something like Fortnite is Western kind of in its themes, certainly, but not in a way that I would say is anywhere as undesirable as Chinese-centric games, because Chinese-centric games always look like they are ancient China style games. They're always based on the Romance of the Three Kingdoms or one of their great novels, things that have been covered several times. And if you compare movies, which I think is a fair comparison here, I guess technically all the Marvel movies are kind of Western-centric. They're Western actors for the most part, in Western dress, doing gun war style Western depictions. But Marvel movies sell a lot better than a Chinese movie. And just take your pick. Even the best-selling Chinese-made movie is still not really that big or popular. And so I think Nine Dragons Kung Fu Arena suffers from its source material, and I think eventually Chinese game developers are going to have to make that determination. Right now, the Chinese government wants everybody to change their content to be more friendly to the Chinese government's way of thinking and how they believe history, or they claim history happened. So they want to add Chinese influence to Western games, but since the Chinese government also is failing to approve games, and the game developers are going to have to make money they're actually going to have to westernize their Chinese developed games more. And over time, we'll probably see a lot more games that look like Fortnite and a lot more games that look like Halo coming out of Chinese game developers than we see Western developers like EA or Ubisoft making Chinese looking games.
You are not the boss of me.
I'm playing all these cards, but am I really doing anything? I have no idea if I'm actually accomplishing anything here. Intel has put out this app called the Intel Performance Maximizer. It is a application that is coming soon that will overclock your CPU and do performance tuning. Apparently it works on i9s of the 9000 series and the i5s of the 9000 and i7s of the 9000 series, and this is, I guess, the 9900 series and the 9700 series and the 9600 series, which I don't believe I have an Intel processor that's that new. I think my Intel processor, it might be a 58,000 series i7, and frankly I don't feel like my CPU is particularly weak. And I wouldn't really want to optimize my CPU to the point of making the fan come on. So this is attempt number 4 to win a tavern brawl at this point. But if you do have a compatible CPU when this software comes out, that might be an interesting thing for you to do. Quite frankly, you've lost the plot if you have to overclock at this point. Unless you are just really, really rich and love to overclock things, you would be better off building a new computer. Once your CPU is so old that it's not tolerable anymore, it's time to probably build a new computer that can use a new motherboard, that can use faster RAM, to put more RAM in it, that you can plug a new video card in. I feel like everything else in my computer works pretty well except for the video card, so I can do a stair-step method, maybe, where I just replace the video card and then maybe 4 years later build a new computer if that needs to happen at all. But also I'm mostly playing older games, and playing Doom 2016 for instance, it's not the CPU that's the problem. If anything, it's the hard drive speed, even with an SSD, still takes a lot of time to load. And the only reason I'm saying I would want to make some more, put some more RAM in my next build is because I'm doing an incredibly insane and abusive action in which I'm opening at least 1,000 tabs in Chrome, and Chrome was a big memory hog in the first place. Alright, let's see. Gonna use the coin to do that. Moving on, we have a story here from Gamma Sutra. The Overwatch League Commissioner Nate Nazar is leaving Blizzard for Epic Games. So this is a story of yet another high-level employee from Activision Blizzard leaving. By the way, there's been more information, I believe, on the layouts that were previously announced for the European offices in Activision Blizzard. Or I misunderstood that story and actually there's been more layoffs in the European offices of Activision Blizzard. I'm not 100% sure what is the truth there, and I don't think I have that story open. So yeah, there's a issue certainly there of Activision Blizzard seemingly not doing very well. Let's see. This.
Here we go.
This. TechRaptor has an article here. The Super Hot franchise achieves 2 million lifetime sales, which is quite a lot. I saw a chart, and I probably shouldn't believe numbers I see on a random chart on Facebook as in like a gaming group, but it seemed to imply that the PlayStation 2 overall, as far as units sold for the console, was the best seller at 149 million units sold. If that is accurate, then to see games selling
So many.
over 150 million units as a game means they've had incredible amounts of success.
Here we go.
And that they would have had to be selling on multiple consoles for that to make sense. 2 million is not 150 million, but even 2 million units sold for Super Hot is rather good, considering how it is a niche, weird game that had really every chance to be a one and done game that came out and nobody had any interest in it. Let's see. Play that. And then do this.
Here we go.
But otherwise, Super Hot has sold very well, and maybe one day I'll get around to actually playing Super Hot myself. Although it is kind of hard to justify playing a game that was so overcovered by mainstream media that if you were paying attention at all when it came out in its many different forms, you would know about it. Well, that was stupid. This thing is gonna die.
Here we go.
Job done.
Next we have an article from TechRaptor. A cinematic FMV thriller called The Complex has been announced, which is weird because I kind of felt like there already was a game called The Complex that was an FMV game. I guess I'm thinking of the game called The Bunker. It's from the developers or the publishers that also published Late Shift and The Infectious Mind of Dr. Decker, both moderately successful FMV games. Seems like this publisher is going to continue the concept of doing
Feeding time.
Let's see what this does. Gives me a card. Alright, cool.
That minion
Doing
already
FMV
attacked.
games. Yep. That's fine. I doubt FMV is going to become the new big thing. But it probably will be. We probably should see at least 1 or 2 FMV games released every year as a style of gameplay, or a style of animating gameplay. we have a TechRaptor page that the image doesn't want to load, probably because I'm using all the cache memory. Alright. Let's see. So this thing just randomizes every attack, doesn't it? So we can just try to attack every time.
That was a mistake. Feeding time. Well played.
This guy's just 2 damage to all undamaged minions.
Pray for mercy. The elements will destroy.
I will show you.
Alright, so TechRaptor has an article here, 3 new game collection announced, I guess, for the upcoming Evercade console. I've never heard of this Evercade console. It seems like it's a portable handheld game, although it doesn't have any analog stick, so it's not going to be that great, and it seems like it has a cartridge for no real reason. Apparently this is for retro gaming more than anything, and it's Namco and Atari games, not the first collection is Namco Museum, and the second collection simply titled Interplay, and then
so many options.
Yep. It seems like this is an $80 console when it comes out. I doubt it's gonna make a lot of sales, quite frankly. Destroy a minion, add 2 coins to your hand.
That was a mistake.
Really?
Too soon.
We'll see. Lethal. So finally we get the Tavern Brawl done. After 4 attempts, we get a Rise of the Shadow pack. And I'm not even sure how much progress we've made on any of the other daily quests. Theoretically, I need to get 2 of these done. So I need to play some Divine Shield minions and minions that cost 2 or less, I guess. Let's open this pack. Legendary? Can we hope? We can hope, but we're not getting it. Just 2 regulars and 2 rares. I wouldn't be surprised if all 5 of these cards get turned to dust. And I guess at the end of the month, since we're approaching this, it might be a good time to rebuild the decks again. And just do that every month. I certainly haven't gotten around to it. So we're on 15. Do we want to end on 15 and play casual, or do I want to play custom paladin on rank? And see if we can get up to 14. I guess we'll just play rank. This is about the best case scenario you can do for rank play. Next we have an article from Gamasutra. Get a job. Roundabout developer in No Goblin is hiring a remote gameplay programmer. This is, I guess, a remote job. I don't know if I really agree with being a remote programmer. Unreal Engine UE4. You know, I don't know about making a game remotely when you're the game dev. There's some positions you can do remotely in game development, but just not being in the same office, being able to answer questions, being able to work with other programmers, even if it is a project where you're the only one doing any programming whatsoever, you're so widely disconnected that it will not be as easy and smooth an experience to do that remotely. And the trick I've heard of doing remote jobs is you have to make yourself feel like you're there all the time, sending out emails, doing Skype conference calls, and just being there. And even then, it seems like it doesn't work too well. So here's 3 mechs to start with. So that puts some questions certainly for Goblin Studio, although I would say Goblin Studio already had some questions, or was it called No Goblin? The developers of Roundabout already had some questions about their longevity, since they've only really succeeded in making a couple of joke games, and I really can't describe it as anything other than that. Next, we have an article here from GameIndustry.biz. The company WeQ has acquired Booster Studios. The mobile ad firm rebrands developer to WeQ Studios, will offer publishing and player acquisition services. So this is a mobile ad firm buying what is mostly a mobile developer. Apparently Booster's first release was called Tower Ray's Building and Craft game, something I've never heard of. Quite frankly, none of the games on the Google Play Store have ever looked attractive at all to me. There was one game, as I was doing the follow list cleanup, that interestingly enough did put out an update in its description to say, hey, we've just included a Android APK application package into our into buying this Windows PC game. So it would be nice, I think, and Steam is slow to do this. They just a week or two ago introduced a chat app for Android, but their next big step would be to integrate probably the chat app to the rest of Steam and integrate the Steam app in general to also allow the selling, purchasing, and hopefully the gifting of mobile games to people who buy Windows PC games on Steam. There's a decent number, I'm sure, of games on Steam that are published by developers who also make mobile games or make mobile versions for those games. If Steam was getting that cut every time a in-app purchase was made on mobile games instead of Google, Valve would be very happy about that. That being said, I would also wonder if it will turn into a situation where in-app purchases and marketplace trading occurs a lot more on a theoretical Steam Android app store, because Google Play decides to just restrict and remove all in-app purchases due to legislation and pressure from governments, in the same way that Steam trading cards and Steam Counter-Strike Go knife skins are still a thing, even though they've been scrutinized quite a bit. Particularly games like The Room and The Room 2 are great examples of games that I've owned, I've purchased, I've supported on Steam, so I feel it would be a very nice gesture. I'm not saying it is something that I absolutely deserve, but it would be a very nice gesture when buying those games, particularly The Room, which was probably $10 for a rather short cell phone game ported to PC. be nice if I got the cell phone version of that too. But that being said, I have 1,000 games I own on Steam. If every single one of those 1,000 games that had a cell phone app gave me that cell phone app for free, I would not be surprised if it really is only 10 to 20 games. Because most PC games don't have cell phone apps because they're in no way close to that style of games, and you can't, and there is no cell phone port. So I guess we hit this, and we hit this, and we hit this, and then we hit this.
Job done.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Layers of Fear 2. Now, personally, I did not like Layers of Fear 1, but I would be willing to say, look at Layers of Fear 2 and compare it. I feel like the DLC did improve the story and the gameplay, so they were moving in the right direction. The problem with Layers of Fear 1 that I had is it looked like it was a bunch of Unity assets that were pre-bought, because that's exactly what it was, and then just a very linear experience game. Looking at this trailer, it is mostly still probably a linear experience game, but it is set, it seems, in a theater with some different assets instead of being in a creepy house, and it seems like you walk through the projector into different areas. There's nothing amazingly different here. This is also asking for $26.99, which is an incredibly high price for a game, and it's 73 on Metacritic. So I guess the question would be, do I put a game like this on the follow list, or do I just immediately put it on the wish list? And I think because there's relevancy there of the fact that I've already covered the first game, it should just go to the wish list. Alright, what do we need to do now? I've gotten one daily quest done, so theoretically I could play off screen later tonight and have a little bit of time. 2 cost minions, let's try to get that before we move over to the European account. Let's see if maybe we get a win streak. Gamer Sutra has an article here. There's a report that Tencent is backing away from Arenas of Valor after it fails to take off in the West. It was a massively popular MOBA, Honor of Kings list.
I must protect the wild.
Well, I guess they bought Honor of Kings and Arena of Valor, but it didn't catch on, and I would agree with that because I have not heard of either one of these games, and frankly bringing a MOBA over to the West is unlikely to succeed greatly. Even World of Warcraft is arguably losing its player base, and I don't think anything is going to actually replace World of Warcraft if it were to shut down. The thing here, more than anything, is it's just a case of people don't have time to play MOBAs and they're not in fashion anymore. So what can we play in this turn? I could reduce the cost of mechs, but I could wait a turn. 2, so I was just doing that. So here's the only real source for the story. 8 hours ago, we're seeing recovery from issues causing buffering on live broadcasts. Broadcasters who need to restart their streams to clear any residual problems. 9 hours ago, we're looking into issues with buffering. Here's May 28th and the artifact issue. Their last tweet on this sentence is, "We're sorry for the inconvenience. The safety of our community is our top priority, and we're doing everything we can to restore all access as quickly as possible. We will provide an update as soon as we're able to. We are working with urgency to remove offending content and suspend all accounts engaged in this behavior. In addition, we're temporarily suspended the ability for new creators to stream, so new creators cannot stream, and I imagine that hasn't, as of yet, been changed as a rule.
Reporting for duty.
These posts are backwards here. Over the weekend, we became aware of a number of accounts targeting the Artifact game directory to share content that grossly violates our terms of service. Investigators uncovered that the majority of the accounts that shared and viewed the content were automated. And then apparently this thread goes on. We're working with urgency to remove the content. Very sorry for the inconvenience. And then there's just a bunch of meme posts and Pepe's and Alex Jones. So yeah. And as best as I understand it, from what I've heard, it was Naruto and anime copyrighted content, and also pornography, just streaming as much copyrighted content on Twitch. If I thought YouTube was smart and YouTube could get away with this being run by Google, I would maybe tinfoil hat suspect that somebody somewhat affiliated with YouTube organized this attack on Twitch as a way of competing and showing, hey, controversies don't always just happen on YouTube, they happen everywhere. But if I was really going to tinfoil hats, assume that somebody was trying to attack Twitch for financial reasons, there's also just other entertainment sources and media in general, TV, cable, such, would often do the same thing. Could also be accused of the same thing if you're just going to randomly throw out accusations. I suspect this is probably just some coordinated group of trolls. And it does just expose that there is a problem with Twitch's automatic detection algorithms and flagging algorithms. The fact that people seem to be able to get away with it for a very long time, and it took them a long time to correct the situation, is not inspiring confidence, I'm sure. Moving on, we have an article here from TechRaptor. Leaks confirm Cadence of Hyrule is releasing on May 30th. So, okay. This is a Crypt of the Necrodancer with Hyrule characters game that has been previously announced. So we knew it was coming, we just didn't know what day it was coming. And now the leaks are coming. This was a slightly interesting article from Game Industry Biz. South Korean government split on gaming disorder. The Ministry of Culture argues diagnosis violates rights to cultural freedom, while the Ministry of Welfare supports the World Health Organization classification. By the way, the World Health Organization also classified burnout, as in working at a job and getting burned out, as a medical diagnosis, which I really don't know what the implications of that would be. I seriously doubt any job that would allow their employees to be burned out are going to care if their employee is diagnosed with burnout.
I must safeguard.
I doubt you're going to be able to use that as an excuse to go on disability and take the extra recovery time or vacation time or time off from a job. I assume why different agencies are putting out different statements means that there isn't a unified opinion higher up in the South Korean government, but certainly you've heard my opinions about how dumb gaming disorder as a concept is, yeah. South Korea particularly stands to lose a lot of money, and frankly a lot of its esports culture in general, if every major esports player is now potentially at risk of being accused to being a gaming addict. Did I play enough cards, or am I gonna have to play one more game? Seems like I gained a star and then I lost a star. I need to play 4 more. GameIndustry.biz has an article here. Sony says the next PlayStation success will depend on backwards compatibility in streaming. Both the Remote Play and PlayStation Now will be key pillars to Sony's next generation offer. Oddly, though, there is no update to PlayStation VR, so that is not something that we'll see them really focusing on when they announce the new PlayStation. And PlayStation is kind of doing a trailer for Death Stranding right now, 2 weeks before E3. Actually figured out how many days it is before E3, now that it's gotten closer. So yeah, they're teasing Death Stranding. There's a good chance Death Stranding comes out with the next PlayStation, if it is a PlayStation exclusive at all by that time. Backwards compatibility and Remote Play certainly are factors, but when you are saying that, that means the things that the PlayStation 5 is admitting it won't really have is system seller exclusives, which would be the #1 factor you would want, or amazing new games that aren't exclusive but run and look way better on the PlayStation 5 than they do on the current gen consoles. So, in my mind, the narrative continues that PlayStation has alienated game devs and they don't have a very good lineup of new games that they have set up for PlayStation 5. Because backwards compatibility and streaming are secondary concepts, things that you would mention in your second paragraph, not your first.
Access denied. Converting stored energy.
Interesting. TechRaptor has an article here, Castlevania Anniversary Collection Review, Vampire Filler. I saw the Digital Foundry review of these games, and they said they liked them. They're not really Castlevania or Metroidvania style games. These are the more just platformer, old school Castlevania games. They said the emulation for the most part is good, although there's a bug with the Xbox One. But I think true Symphony of the Night fans in particular are not very happy with the games that were chosen. And if there was a second anniversary collection that was made, I think people would have a lot better experience. You can see TechRaptor gave it a 6.5. They say Castlevania Anniversary Collection is a disappointing reunion of some of the game's greatest titles and a couple of its worst. New players will love the vampire killing action on offer, but returning fans won't find anything to tempt them back. Pros are the NES Castlevania games are great. The Super Castlevania 4 is a masterpiece. Castlevania Bloodlines is excellent, mildly interesting ebook. Cons are its bare-bone lazy ports, numerous technical glitches, no secret extras, and it feels rushed. Which, you know, Castlevania is from Konami, I believe. Not Capcom, but I could be wrong about that. And because of that, I think that it probably was rushed and a low effort game. So yeah, I think the main complaint is the selection. TechRaptor has some problems with how it played. Maybe it plays worse on the PC than it does on, I guess, the PlayStation version. A lot of the games though are really old, so there's not a lot that can be said in comparison to modern games. Next we have a game on Steam called Dark Skeleton Survival. This looks terrible. It looks like an asset flip. Low effort game. It's $9.99. It's English with a bunch of subtitles and a bunch of other languages. So yeah, that's not making it to the fall list.
Converting stored energy.
And that.
Reporting for duty.
We'll just take life still while we're at it.
Job's done.
Next we have a game on Steam called Blacklist Brigade, which looks like a Unity asset flip game.
Blood and plunder.
Top down simulation, military raid style games. Early access, $9.89 discounted.
This guy's toast.
Yeah, again, nothing great about this game, so let's just get rid of it quickly and move forward.
Reporting for duty. Next we have a game on Steam called Spellforce 3 Soul Harvest. It's rated positively. It's from THQ Nordic. I think this being a THQ Nordic re-release, I assume, or just continuation of a real-time strategy series. This is the kind of game that should be on the follow list. Spellforce 2 not getting review. Spellforce Platinum Edition doesn't seem like it has a review. Enough reviews either. So this is a follow list game. It's asking for $25, which is asking a lot. It has full English audio, a full German audio, and nothing else. This is the kind of game that would need more research. And since I don't want to spend the time now doing the research, I want to see in 6 months or longer how many people actually like the game, to see if there's some mob rule explanation to why I'd want to play this instead of something like Diablo. I'll just put it on the follow list. Here we go. Lifesteal.
Let's move quickly.
Let's see. Next tab. Are you gonna load? It may actually not load. Trying to close tabs, but quite frankly, closing every single tab I have open in this Chrome window won't do anything about the hundreds of tabs opened in the other Chrome window. I have about 4 or 5 Chrome windows open. just tabs galore all over the place. Let's see. Gametsu has an article, Contra Anniversary Edition Anniversary Collection full lineup announced. So it includes Contra Arcade and the Japanese version via free update, Super Contra and Japanese version free update. I bet these all say Japanese version plus free update if there was a Japanese version. So it's Contra, Super C, Contra 3, The Alien Wars, Contra Hard Corps, Contra NES, Contra Famicom, Operation C for Game Boy with the Japanese version, Probotector and Super Probotector. I know the Contra series has been a weird series as far as naming it in the West, so that explains the variety there. I'm not sure I really want to play Contra games, but when it does come out, it's coming out for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. So there is a idea here to play all of those games if they're ported well, and that there's really some relevancy. Game Industry Biz has an article about Tencent giving up on Arena of Valor. We already talked about that. Let's see. Draw this. Play this.
Reporting for duty.
Do that. Here we have a game on Steam called Between the Stars. It's a simulation RPG game, space game. I'm so not interested in space games that it's hard to even look at a game like this and not just immediately ignore it. That being said, people are broadcasting and streaming it. It's early access, it's $70 nonsense. It's English and Spanish and language, full audio English, which might add some helpful information. I don't initially hate this, so I'll put this on the follow list and we'll see how many reviews it has in about 6 months. Because it might be a good space game. Sadly, I guess that is the same thing you could say for a lot of space games. So we got 2 daily quests done. Let's move over to the European account now. And that's all we needed to do for Friday. Although it would be better if I get all 3 of the daily quests done. I don't think that's going to happen. This next game is tagged sexual content, so let me just look at the screenshots. Doesn't look like there's anything, although it would be hard to tell since it's a jigsaw puzzle game. So we have another one of these jigsaw puzzle games on Steam, this one called Yumi Puzzle. This is actually a jigsaw puzzle game that seems to have a variety of sizes, showing anime girls. It's tagged nudity and sexual content, so I assume some of the pictures are going to include that. It's discounted to 89 cents. Still not really worth purchasing these types of games, and it has only 3 achievements, so it's also an achievement game in my mind. But yeah, another canary in the coal mine, another game that seemed like it had no problem being played. I'm gonna play this. Because you're choosing the Tavern Brawl, you're not choosing the hero type, and I need to get 2 victories with the Hunter, and that'll get 2 daily quests done. And yes, this next game is also tagged nudity and sexual content, which continues to push the idea in my mind that there is somebody specifically approving these games, and whoever is approving these games seems to do it in a 2-week cycle or so. So we have a game here called The Language of Love, tag nudity, sexual content. This image screenshot shows them back, but it's not real nudity. There seems to be 2 young children that are being taken care of in the story, but then it seems like the main romance of the story is this woman and this man. Seems like it's a visual novel, if I was to say. It's a young single mother. $11.99. It's English and German, oddly, instead of including Japanese as a language. So what do I do for visual novels at this point? I guess that you can't know. I really can't go down and I can't reject visual novels in general, or reject them because they have sexual content in them. So I guess what I have to do is just put it on the follow list, and the follow list may, next time we do follow list cleanup, may really just be a list of 50% visual novels that then a snap judgment could be made on because that people will have reviewed them.
What now? I must choose.
See, I'm skipping through the trailer of this game. Yep. Yeah, there's nothing really too strange about the story. A young single mother is dating, trying to find a romantic interest. That would be weird for a Japanese story, and a Japanese writer would almost never write that story. But it also is something that happens in the West quite a bit. Young single mothers then having to struggle with raising their children and also trying to meet their own emotional and romantic needs. Nine damage split between all characters. Moving on, GameIndustry.biz has an article. Playdate handheld, the crank game, black and white screen handheld game device that has been announced, apparently pressured the Playdate event to change its name, says the organizer, even though Playdate event happened way before it. And I would argue that even if you were granted a copyright or trademark for Playdate in any category, where I suspect a handheld electronic device is not in the same category as a conference event, it really is a trademark that should have not been granted and should be immediately invalidated. Because that makes no sense that anybody should own the trademark or copyrighted for such a simplistic term called Playdate. If it was play.date like their website and that's what they were calling the device, that's one thing. So the article continues. Nathalie, Nathalie, lawhead, criticizes Panic Rep for, quote, bullying people building the culture the handheld is marketing toward. This is not the kind of not the kind of coverage you want when you're releasing a new console. And already the Playdate handheld console is an expensive offer because you have to buy it for $150+ and then you get the games included, but you can't pick and choose the games you're getting. Instead, you're being subscribed to a weekly release of black and white mini games. And I think mini games are the closest thing you could really describe it as. Let's see. If I had a weapon, I would use a weapon. But I don't. So, I don't know if that article really needs to be covered any further. It's just bad behavior from somebody representing Playdate. Next we have a game on Steam called Byte Driver, which looks like a wireframe racing game of old. And yeah, it doesn't look particularly interesting. Quite frankly, it just looks like somebody tried to do something interesting visually and then made a very generic racing game where you can shoot cars. $7.99 is a rather expensive game for what I'm seeing. Claiming it has full audio, which I find questionable. It has 5 achievements that are numbers, which makes it feel like an achievement game. I don't think this game needs to be on the follow list, so we'll move forward. Lose. Split. Minions in my hand have echo.
Rise to meet you. I'll fix you.
Next we have a game on Steam called Vambrant's Cold Souls, which is mixed. There's a review we're going to look at for Vambrant's Cold Souls. So, from TechRaptor. It's a dungeon crawler RPG, and if it's mixed as it's brand new, that's questionable. It's $22.49. And TechRaptor definitely does have this problem where people hype games and are paid to hype games or write articles about games a lot before they come out, and then they come out and they're at least 50% of the time games are going to be bad. So we see some reviews here that's like, this is what happens if you try to describe Darkest Dungeon to someone who writes visual novels over a really bad line. Just negative review, negative review, negative review. Ton of negative reviews here. So confidence is definitely not inspired. And that's kind of a shame. I like this thumbnail, but looking at these screenshots, it really doesn't look very much like it's really embracing that art style. And this does seem like it is something close to a Darkest Dungeon clone. And I think I own Darkest Dungeon. Maybe I don't own the DLC, so I don't know why I wouldn't just play Darkest Dungeon instead of this. Since I haven't gotten around to actually playing that.
Wake before the earth.
So Vambrant's Cold Souls not making it to the follow list right now. Maybe TechRaptor's review will change my mind on that, but probably not. Next we have a game on Steam that's a bunch of Asian characters, and it's called and it says Abandoned Snowy Castle. This looks like a Chinese visual novel. It doesn't even look like it's a finished Chinese visual novel. There's like no graphics, it seems, at all. It seems to be just text, which then I guess at that point just makes it a novel, an interactive story, text-based. and not a visual novel. I mean, just because it has a background or two does not make it a visual novel in my mind. English is not supported, so it's already out. It's $2.24, and yes, it is simplified Chinese. So that's an example of an extremely low effort Chinese game. In my mind, at least. Is this guy gonna play, or what? Nine damage, split amongst all characters, or discard all minions. Destroy all minions, discard your hand. Let's try this. Okay, we'll just do that. Next we have a game on Steam called Crypt Runner, which looks like it's a dungeon crawler RPG game. I don't like the art style. I don't like the camera angle on it. It feels like it's a little bit faster paced run and gunner, which is an interesting idea, but frankly, if you're gonna make a dungeon crawler, that is the one time where a top-down fast-paced game is more preferred than a over-the-shoulder, zoomed way far back camera perspective. This is early access for $6.79 with English being the only language. And I'm just not impressed with this. So if Crypt Runner does somehow impress somebody, they would have to convince me to look at it a second time. And that is going to be the way things go going forward a lot of times, is that I will just make rough decisions and maybe I'll miss some hidden gems or even some well-known good games based on the initial presentation. But yeah, I'm definitely increasing my standards. Alright, that didn't work. Let's try this. Next we have a game on Steam called Rescue HQ The Tycoon, which seems to be an asset flip game of being a headquarters for several different rescue forces, police, fire, ambulance, and it seems like it's probably a poorly thought out, poorly designed building simulator or game. Looking at the screenshots you don't see a lot, but looking at the video at the beginning you start to see there's just a lot of these rather unimpressive 3D models, and in all fairness you probably don't ever have the capability to zoom in and look at these 3D models at this level of zoom that's being shown here. But then why make your trailer to show that off instead of showing how the game is actually going to be played, which is from a top-down, zoomed out perspective? Either way, it's asking $26.99, which is an incredibly high price, even though it's 10% discounted. It's claiming it's full English and full German, and yeah, I just don't see anything there. And we still have a ton of news and a ton of games to look at. Actually though, we might run into games that I just have not gotten around to adding to the follow list from the previous stream, so there might be less tabs than I actually think. TechRaptor has an article here. Subway Simulator Overcrowd, a commute 'em up, is coming to Steam in early access June 2019. So this is a hype article, it doesn't really need to be mentioned. A commuting game, probably not an interesting game, quite frankly. Death Rattle minions that died this game. Techcraft has the same article. Arena of Valor reportedly facing abandonment by Tencent.
What to do?
Seems like everybody else knew about Arena of Valor as far as the journalistic group of people. It's just people that actually played the game seems to have never heard of it. Okay. So all of these will die, and then it will be merged into a void singularity. Gamatsu has an article, Sea of Solitude launches July 5th. This is a interesting looking game. We've seen trailers. It's a personal journey to overcome a young woman's inner loneliness. Seems like you're playing as this black creature in the light world. It's coming out for PS4, Xbox One, and PC for $19.99. Probably not a super long game, quite frankly, but it definitely looked weird. Now the question, I guess, that it will come down to is this an actual game, or is this kind of just a tech demo? There was another game where you were in a flooded world and you were boating around, and there was very little to actually do.
Many possibilities.
And it's a shame. I think that game was called Submerged, but it might have been called Sunken or something else. So, yeah, although there's nothing to act on now, I am slightly hyped, probably too hyped for that game, and it probably won't be anything of actual interest when it comes out. TechRaptor has a review for a game called Draugen, D-R-A-U-G-N. It's a subtitle of the article is Companion Tesseract. Let's see what this game is. I think this is a walking simulator adventure style game. Is this the one where you have to paint pictures? Maybe, maybe not. They said it's 7.0, very good. Draugen is a short exploration game with not a whole lot to explore, but its majestic Norwegian vistas and its amazing companion engagement makes it what to trip. Pros are stunning art direction, sublime soundtrack, engaging companion. Maybe walking simulators going forward should have a companion. Cons are predictable plot twists, shallow gameplay, and no puzzles. So yeah, that's not. It doesn't feel like that's a terribly bad game. So I will put Draugen on, I guess, the fall list. Let's give it a little bit more time to get some reviews. You can see on Steam it doesn't have very many reviews. Yeah, walking around somewhere and having a conversation with even one person is a lot more human and normal than most walking simulators, because it is pretty much a crazy idea to walk around in most areas that are shown in walking simulators and not try to find somebody to talk to, or in some other way something to interact with. And honestly, I'm a little surprised that there haven't been more games where you're guided around and talked to. Maybe there's something sometimes annoying about being guided and preached to in some games, when you might just want to have control and talk to yourself. I'm also surprised that a lot of developers don't don't do that also is have the player talk to itself a lot of times. Alright, I'm gonna hit this. And then I'm going to hit this. And then I'm gonna end the turn. And that's going to summon 3 of these. Gamatsu has an article here. Steins Gate 10th anniversary project number 1 to be announced on May 21st. The first of 10 special projects. I bet these projects aren't new games in total, though. I doubt 10 new games from Steins Gate. I had not really realized that Steins Gate was 10 years old at this point. Interesting. Well, we got the Tavern Brawl done. That's nice. So let's open these packs. This really is a stream that needs to be abbreviated, shorter than usual. At some point, I probably need to start thinking about just giving up on playing the Asian account or the European account in particular. If I can get 3 hunter and mage victories, and one of them is a hunter, that will get 2 daily quests done. If I play 6 combo cards, I'd have to play the rogue. So if I'm looking for hunter games, I really shouldn't be playing ranked, but I'll try it anyways. Gamatsu has an article here. Maetsu Pure Station is coming to the West for the PS4 and the Switch. This, I believe, is a train anime visual novel style game. Maybe there are anthropomorphized characters that represent trains. Maybe it's just anime people that run the trains. It's not super surprising that Japanese people would be into trains. Although their subways nowadays are usually not these old style steam trains that you would more likely see in Europe. They are instead high speed bullet subway trains and modern trains that are more aerodynamic and more modernly designed. Oddly, in the United States, depending on what region of the United States you're in, you could either have a lot of nostalgia for trains or more likely no nostalgia for trains, because yeah, trains are infrequently, sporadically placed throughout the landmass of the United States. And even if there is a decent number of trains around you, that doesn't mean that you're riding them ever in your life, so you might have no interaction with them. And this. And then this. Next we have a game on Steam called Chaos, K-A-O-S, which looks like a low-effort top-down shooter. Visually, none of these screenshots are appealing. It wants $19.99. It says it's full audio English. Yeah. I don't see anything here of any interest. Looks just like a standard zombie top-down style shooter game. I played poorly, clearly. Because he killed my beast. Next we have a game on Steam called The Battle of Sprack, which looks like an RPG Maker game. And I don't think we really have to go any further than just saying that. RPG Maker games I have zero interest in playing. Discounted to $2.99, English only as the language. Yeah, there's nothing here. And I would say that name, The Battle of Sprack, is not a good name. Black sounds like a sound effect you'd see in an old Batman TV show or comic book. Next we have a game called Space War Infinity, which is a shoot 'em up game. It doesn't visually look any different than thousands of other shoot 'em up games I've seen. Looks like it's probably fine, but not interesting enough for me. It's discounted to 74 cents and it's bundled in a couple of bundles, and also it's English and Portuguese Brazil as far as the language. Yep, and then another game not making it to the fall list. Alright. This. And then that.
That means turn to get ready.
That.
I hunt alone.
And my turn. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called GG Puzzler. I assume that means Gamer Girl in this case and not Gamergate. But it's kind of hard to tell. And the screenshots are just showing what look like realistic or possibly real world images of girls. I assume cosplayers or something. Maybe these images were licensed, maybe they were stolen, who knows. It's $2.99, and any of these generic puzzle games still not worth actually buying, but they exist here. And I don't see why anybody would call their game Gamergate something. That would probably cause more controversy than what it's worth. Let's see. GameIndustry.biz has an article here. Google is investing 600 million euros into the Finnish data center ahead of Stadia. This second center will open in Hamina as the internet giant expands its infrastructure. It's nice to hear that they're still working on Stadia, but unless they have partners, I don't know what companies are really going to use it and what kind of games are really going to use it. Again, for a brief moment, I'm forced to talk about Randy Pitchford, but in this case I think we can mostly leave it to generic news reporting in this instance. Let's see. Well, that I guess is what we'll do. GameIndustry.biz has an article here. Cory Barlog, Randy Pitchford, Brendan Green, and David Cage are going to speak at Game Lab 2019. The Spanish Developer Conference opens its schedule with the creators of God of War, Borderlands. I don't know if Randy Pitchford really was the creator of Borderlands, PUBG, and Detroit Becoming Human. So these are paid speakers getting, I assume, paid to come, or maybe they're getting honored in some way at a Spanish developer conference. I suppose this is Spanish as in Mexico, but maybe it's Spanish as in Spain. Game Lab 2019 takes place at Hesperia Tower, Barcelona. It's Spanish as in Spain. So effectively, I bet all of those people would agree to speak just because they could take a vacation in Spain while doing it. But that's just kind of an announcement news and not anything too controversial. Next, we have a game on Steam. Wait a minute, this was supposed to start loading. We have a game called Lapia, which looks different. interesting. You're playing as a robot in a society where robots seem to work. Seem to have some kind of gun, but then you're walking around a museum-looking place.
Bring it on.
Not sure what this game really is. You have a gun, you have a life bar. You're wandering around hallways that I don't see any enemies in. Maybe the gun does not shoot things, but does something else different. Let's see. It's described in a ruined world where people and robots have have retired, I guess, maybe that's the word, or receded to the underground. Lapia, it has a mission to keep the sun shining. It's not much of a description. This is a free game. Is this a student project? Because that'd be about the only reason I could give that I'd want to play it right now, is that it was a student project and I wanted to show it off because of that. Seems like there's 5 programmers and about 5 game developers. Game industry students. Okay. So yeah, this is a student project. In my cleanup work, I've determined that student projects are just going to go to the wish list if they're free by default, because the only reason I'm playing them is that they're student projects, and the only reason anything is going on is because they're a student project. So I don't need to really consider any other factors, just put it on the wish list. So I'll put that game on the wish list. Kind of buried the lead, and I didn't get a lot of news here, but I know DNA announced like 5 different Pokemon things. I'm not sure if they're all actual games or elements or parts of games or what, quite frankly.
To my side.
Let's see. If I could do 2 damage here. Yeah. I don't want to do that though. It's just in the turn. So, the first article we have here from Gamatsu, DNA developed Pokemon Masters announced for smartphones. A new and exciting Pokemon game for smartphones this month called Pokemon Masters is on its way for Android and iOS devices. Pokemon Masters enables players to experience a new type of Pokemon battling on the go and features many famous trainers for our long history of Pokemon video games. Gameplay will be optimized for smart devices for a casual but unique Pokemon experience. Fans can expect more details about Pokemon Masters in June. So what I suspect is going to happen here is that this is going to be a somewhat gacha game where you're asked one way or another to spend in-game currency to unlock more characters to fight a ever-increasing list of bosses that you'll fight. And it probably won't have anything to do with walking around like Pokemon Go, and instead will just be you have a certain amount of stamina, I would guess, or some other element that will push you to always be short on stamina as a currency, and always also be short on, let's just call them gems as a currency, and I think there probably will be at least 150 Pokemon that you'll have to unlock and level up and merge together to get better versions. And there probably won't be any random battles at all in Pokemon Masters. I think I could be definitely wrong about this. It could be very similar to the game I'm playing, Destiny Child, which is not kid-friendly, whereas Pokemon Masters probably will almost certainly be kid-friendly. So that's one. This next one is crazy. Then the next Gematsu article is Pokemon Sleep announced for smartphones. The Pokemon Company has announced Pokemon Sleep, a new application for smartphones coming in 2020. Soon, trainers will be able to wake up with Pokemon every morning with Pokemon Sleep, a mobile app from the Pokemon Company. Pokemon Sleep aims to turn sleeping into entertainment by having a player's time spent sleeping and the time they wake up affect gameplay. So this is probably something designed as a give me to angry parents of kids that play way too much Pokemon Go. And that is what I assume this is. While more details about the app's functionality will be revealed at a later date, it was announced that a new device from Nintendo, Pokemon Go Plus, which is the word plus and the symbol, the plus symbol, will connect to Pokemon Sleep and launch this with the app. So yeah, it's a sleep tracking app. And frankly, I don't think I would really want to be trusting Nintendo or anybody to track the sleeping patterns of my child. So there's definitely some concern there, I would say. Yeah, if anybody's going to track the sleeping patterns of my child, my fictional child, theoretical child, it would be me and only me, not some application that's trying to gamify it. That being said, maybe it will help some parents actually convince children to go to sleep at a reasonable time. I didn't need to do that. I wasn't paying attention. Next article we have is Pokemon Home Cloud Service announced for Switch smartphones. All the Pokemon you have gathered together in one place.
None can escape the fury of the storm.
The sense here is the world of Pokemon games is more diverse than ever, with a range of titles for Nintendo 3DS, Nintendo Switch, and mobile devices. Now trainers can bring all their Pokemon together with Pokemon Home, a new cloud service app that enables them to continue their Pokemon adventures beyond a single game system and manage their collection of Pokemon across many of their games. So this sounds amazingly awesome for anybody who actually played Pokemon Red and then Blue and then Gold and then Silver. There was a lot of doing the same thing over and over again because you could not transfer a Pokemon Red character, I guess, to Pokemon Go super easy. Although maybe you could, but I don't think a lot of people did, if that's the case. So having the opportunity to have one collection of Pokemon for all future Pokemon games sounds really nice, and is an admittance that the Pokemon games as JRPGs for little kids were way too long and way too grindy. It says, the smartphone users can also trade with friends and others around the world directly through Pokemon Home. Pokemon Home connects with Pokemon Bank as well as, I don't know what Pokemon Bank is. It's another thing they announced, I'm sure. As well as Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. And the upcoming Pokemon Sword and Shield game. So any Pokemon you collected in previous games, not so lucky. And also Pokemon Go though, so Pokemon Go's not too bad. So yeah, having it all in one place, it is a much better experience for Pokemon fans these days than it was in the original generations. A lot easier. That being said, I would say that this current generation is probably far less obsessed with Pokemon than people who were obsessed with it when it first came out. Because there was a lot of toys and a lot of merchandise sold for Pokemon when it first came out, and I don't see as much of that happening nowadays. Next article in Pokemon Story, we have Detective Pikachu sequel announced for the Switch. Not really a big surprise there. This will be a sequel, I assume, to the game, and might take a few cues from the movie, but I bet not too many. Remember, the Detective Pikachu game had a very different looking character working with Detective Pikachu, so and I think a different voice actor voicing him, so there will be some form of disconnect unless they do a lot of writing to explain things. Let's see. Let's go ahead and play this.
To my side.
TechRaptor has basically the same article, Pokemon Press Conference 2019, with some pictures. Yeah, they really don't even have a lot here. Not a lot of information being said in it. Did not see an article about Pokemon Bank, so we need to see what that is. TechRaptor has the same article. The Nintendo announced the Pokemon Go Plus, and he's showing what looks like just an enhanced version of the keychain device that was the Pokemon Go Plus before. Nintendo selling hardware as experiments again. Let's see. Do I want to do this and then do that? Not really. Let's just get that off the field. One more turn and I'll win. Yeah, TechRaptor just has the exact same articles that Gamatsu has for the most part, but maybe some pictures they could show. Barely 4 sentences here in these articles, because that's barely all it was said. Is clearly that Pokemon event was mostly just about hyping people about Pokemon more than it was actually telling any information. TechRaptor has an article here, Pokemon Press Conference. NetEase is bringing Pokemon Quest to China with player versus player. I'm not sure what Pokemon Quest is, though. Is that a game that's already out and I've just forgotten it or not heard of it? Okay, that's one hunter victory. We need 2 more, or 2 more mage victories. Next, we have a game on Steam called Void Bastards that seems to be a roguelike first-person shooter where you're taking in criminals as a criminal yourself, I think is the story. This was covered on Giant Bomb. It looks interesting. I kind of like the art style and the weirdness of it. So it doesn't have enough reviews right now, unless reloading would possibly have it show that it has reviews. Actually it does. Okay, I wonder if I reloaded half the pages if that would work. So reloading the page shows that it has 76 very positive reviews, so, or it's rated very positive reviews, so that's enough to just put it on the follow the wish list. I don't think there's a reason to not do that. By the time I get around to buying it, though, in all fairness, I wouldn't be surprised if it's lost some of the glitter and glamour around it, because I wouldn't be surprised if Void Bastard is just kind of an overhyped game that doesn't have any staying power. Now, this next bit of news I can't 100% verify as accurate because I'm too lazy, but we have someone on Twitter who I believe works at Activision Blizzard saying Hearthstone is looking for a senior UI engineer, more details below. So they're hiring, which would be kind of good news if they weren't also firing. And if you're looking externally for a senior user interface engineer, that means you already lost your senior user interface engineer. And I don't know how much you'd want to see the user interface change on Hearthstone. So there's some questions worthy of being asked in this. Let's see if that works.
Reporting for duty.
Let's do that. So do I want to attack this guy or attack this?
Job's done.
Oh, I should have attacked the face. TechRaptor has an article here. Iceberg Interactive announces a Lovecraftian cyberpunk game called Transient. Okay, there's a trailer here I guess I can look at. It's coming out in 2020 for PC, PS4, and Xbox One.
Reporting for duty.
And that is questionable, quite frankly. A lot of people have tried to make HP Lovecraft style games and then failed miserably to really do it because depicting Lovecraftian style art is almost impossible visually, and it's been a consistent failure that anybody has ever tried. It is also kind of one of those instances where people seem to be obsessed with HP Lovecraft to the point where it hurts their ability to do anything artistic or interesting. The trailer I'm looking at barely shows anything, so it's just a small teaser trailer, and there's nothing besides the visual artistic spin on it. There's nothing else I can really say about it. Let's see. This. This. This.
Job's done. Get down!
Just go ahead and this turn. Next we have an article from TechRaptor. Death Stranding release date announced along with the new trailer. I haven't watched the trailer. I really don't care to watch any more Death Stranding trailers at this point. But what's the release date? If we can get an actual release date.
I wonder.
Like, I have no interest in being hyped in Death Stranding, and apparently this article is not really mentioning a release date, because I'm not seeing any numbers in this article, unless it's the date reveal trailer is in this trailer releasing the date. So let's just skip to the end. November 8th, 2019. Okay, so you have to watch the trailer to see the release date, which is ridiculous. Yep, I'm not keen to be hyped on Death Stranding anymore. I've had enough with the teasers and trailers. Let's just let it come out and see if it's a good game or not. TechRaptor has an article here, Weedcraft Inc. free DLC coming early June 2019. I'm kind of thinking about maybe covering Weedcraft Inc. as a clicker style game, but I also feel like my YouTube channel would just get flagged, so I'm probably not going to do that. But I've had that thought. Maybe it's a game that I should just buy to support the industry of making different and unique video games. Or maybe it's a game that's just selling on weed culture and it isn't actually that good and thus really shouldn't be supported because it's not a good game design. Either way could be true. Alright, I lost. Let's switch over to the mage and see if we can get a victory that way. Mage, casual play. Next we have a game on Steam called Delta Squad. It's a top-down twin-stick shooter where you're just wandering around an area shooting things. It doesn't seem particularly unique or interesting. Let's see, it needs a controller. Requires a controller. It's $3 or is that $5.39 discounted? English and Spanish.
You asked for it.
Yeah, nothing impressive there. Next we have a game on Steam called Conan Unconquered, which looks like it's a real-time strategy game where you're playing as the Conan characters and style of stories, which does not really seem very different from the previous Conan game that was made, and frankly it doesn't sound particularly interesting. So I maybe could throw this game a bone and put it on the fall list and see if maybe it does become really popular. But there's a long line of failed Conan style games, Conan named games, licensed games, and I think if this game is good, I'm gonna have to actually get a review that tells me it's good, and until that happens I'm gonna leave Conan Unconquered just not on a fall list or wish list. It's $29.99 right now, by the way, undiscounted, and it has 111 achievements. That does not seem like a good deal. Let's see. Is that game Dragoon again? I bet I do have a bunch of duplicate tabs, so I'm gonna have to be somewhat careful about that. Next we have a game called Lorne's Ward Winter Chronicles. Looks like it's a top-down hack and slash game. Guess maybe I could reload it and see if it's got more reviews. It doesn't. It's early access. I'll put this on the fall list. I'll be generous. Although I frankly probably should stop being generous for the games. X Elemental you play costs 2 less. Okay, we'll remember that for next turn.
Run! I will hold them off.
Okay. Play this. Play this. And play this. And then return. Next we have a game called Scat 3D Premium, and I don't know this game, Scat, so I don't know how to play it, and I don't really know if this would be a good version of it or a bad version of it. Maybe Tabletop Simulator is the better offer, but without knowing how to play it, that's questionable. It's $11.99. I guess for this unique situation, English and German full audio.
What to do?
For this unique situation, this should be on the follow list. We should see if people who know how to play Scat 3D like this implementation. Let's do this. In the turn. Next we have a TechRaptor article, Unruly Heroes Review and Unsung Journey, which seems to be some kind of RPG platformer, maybe? What did they say? It's 7.5, very good. It's playable on Steam. A solid platforming experience. Unruly Heroes' biggest issue is less its mechanics and more its overall presentation. Stylish to a point, and even cartoonish and aesthetics can't help but see it struggle to stand out. Okay. Let's do that. And then that. And then that. And win. The pros for this game, Unruly Heroes, a great visual design, solid game mechanics, just enough variety in the levels, and overall solid game. The cons are it lacks any charm, it's kind of boring package overall, and it's a gimmicky possession sections. So I guess this should be on the follow list. Although I'm saying these are going to the follow list, these are going to the wish list, I'll forget completely what I said, and I don't have a system I've developed at all to mark something as going to the follow list or the wish list. Everything had been going to the follow list up until this point, and now I'm just elevating things. This is a $19.99 game. It's mostly positive. It's a platformer game. Speaking of platforming, Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Maker 2, for some insane reason, has decided to make it impossible to play against friends online, which people are definitely not happy about. I don't know if there's really anything else to say there at the moment, but yeah, that's Nintendo being Nintendo and being weird. This platformer seems fine, it seems visually polished. Seems like something I'd be willing to give a chance to. Let's see, if I play this now, no, let's just end our turn. Gamatsu has an article, the Avenger Games reveal is set for E3 2019. So whatever that Avengers game that they were working on, we will see, and we'll, I guess, be either interested or not interested depending on what actually is shown. I'm gonna use the coin but not use anything else on that. I think that might be the best strategy. Trying really hard to kill that minion. Let's see, next elemental will take 2 less. Yeah, it's just in the turn here. Alright, Next we have Our World Is Ended on Steam. This is a game that's been hyped and talked about and mentioned several times by Gamatsu as a Japanese visual novel adventure game. Seems like it's a post-apocalyptic MMO world game. There's been a lot of trailers and teasers for it. I don't know how much of this though really is a VR game though. Oh, well, it's not a VR game, but I don't know how much of this is visual novel. It probably is all a visual novel, or mostly a visual novel. It's $39.99 with no discount. This should go on the follow list though. It's had so much coverage to it that that there is something interesting in it, I'm sure. But I'm not 100% sure what is the interesting part of it yet. Okay.
Time runs out on me.
In the turn. GameIndustry.biz has an article. Starbreeze applies for a second extension on its restructure period. The troubled Swedish publisher wants another 3 months to get itself back on track. I believe they were approved for the first extension, or maybe they were even approved of the second extension, because I know they were approved for something. Regardless, Starbreeze is not in a good position. Whereas, so far, the story of NIS, Nippon Ichi Software, having trouble financially has kind of disappeared since then. I imagine the story will come back into the limelight eventually, but at the moment it's left the zeitgeist of people talking about it. Next we have a game on Steam called Deckbox Dungeons, which looks like an attempt at some kind of tabletop game in a PC version, in the digital version. Does not look impressive at all. It's free, so I guess the price is right, but yeah. There's nowhere near enough polish or visually interesting elements being shown. Okay. Let's do this. Next we have a game on Steam called Astronomy VR, which looks like a VR game where you're flying around to space looking at different planets and elements in the solar system. It requires VR, it's $9.99. It frankly doesn't look particularly interesting or particularly well polished, and I think you probably could find something that does something somewhat similar to this a lot better. So I don't think I need to put this as a VR game on my follow list. There's still a decent amount of VR games getting left on the follow list because I really can't do anything more with them. I'm not willing to put them on the VR on the wish list because I'm not likely to buy a VR headset ever. So I am removing some of them that are just not of any real quality, but there's still a decent collection being left. This might be of interest to some people. Code Vein has a behind-the-scenes developer diary video that you might be interested in looking at. I really don't have time for that. Code Vein is still in development. It is the anime-looking spiritual successor to Dark Souls. Next we have an article here from Gamasutra, the King co-founder, King being the company that makes Candy Crush, is stepping down as the CEO. I think this is probably a great example of him getting out when the time is right, before all the loot boxes and legislation and all the laws come out, particularly stopping Candy Crush from doing what Candy Crush does, because Candy Crush in particular has been a named example of a game that is very much feels like it's targeted to children, and very much is full of microtransactions. Now I have to win 3 tavern brawls? Forget that. Now I've got the fuzzy graphics. Here's TechRaptor reviewing that game, Vanguard's Cold Soul. Let's see what they have to say about this game. They gave it a 9.0, amazing.
Jaina versus Valera.
They say it's dazzling visuals, deftly layered system, engrossing atmosphere, satisfying challenge, and its cons are largely shallow combat. So I don't, and the link just takes me to the Humble Bundle instead of taking me to Steam. Yeah, because they get a better affiliate link if you buy it on Humble Bundle. So I don't know what to take from this. Is it that TechRaptor has just been paid to write a very good review, and TechRaptor is now willing to take money to write positive reviews, or did they see something very different in Vanguard's Cold Souls than what the average reviewers on Steam were saying about it? I guess I'm gonna have to just maybe put it on the follow list and give it some time and see what happens. That's kind of all I can do for now, and put some more research into it. Next we have a game on Steam called Cowpocalypse, Episode 1. Already it's an episodic game, so I'm not interested. It looks like a low effort asset flip game with dark screenshot syndrome. Also, it's free to play, so I don't know how it's making any money. It's English and Hungarian, which is an odd combination of languages. So yeah, everything I see about Cowpocalypse tells me it's not worth spending any more time on it. TechRaptor has an article here if it wants to load up. There's a rumor that The Witcher 3 is possibly coming to the Switch in September. That would be asking somewhat a lot, because you would be effectively having to downgrade the game by a significant amount. So here's the article. I don't even think they have anything really to say, other than there's been some listings indicating that it might be coming to the Switch on some sites somewhere. I honestly don't think it is incredibly difficult though to downport anything to the Switch, because you can just always render the graphics to look worse. you can kind of always make a game run worse. Although maybe at a certain point you're going to have to remove the number of enemies on screen. There usually weren't a ton of enemies on screen in the Witcher game anyways. So that still would be pretty doable. And I would say The Witcher 3 kind of fails as a game if it comes to the Switch and is not visually attractive as possible. So that would be interesting to see a comparison if it does come out. Next we have a game on Steam called Black Baron, which looks like it is some kind of RPG FTL style game. It's kind of lacking a little polish, but I kind of want to give it a chance. It's $12.59, which is too expensive. English, Russian, and Chinese. Well, with that language combination, it lost its chance. An FTL based around Sky Pirates as a game is an interesting idea, but it was barely going to make it to the follow list before I saw the language support. Now I feel like it's going to be a low effort game just because of the languages. I don't know. I'll be generous. I'll put it on the follow list anyways. Probably doesn't deserve that, but 2 damage if it's frozen. Split. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Artemis, God, Queen of the Hunt. Artemis being one of the goddesses of the Greek pantheon. This looks like a Super Meat Boy platformer though, and it does have a slightly different artistic style than a lot of these Super Meat Boy style platformers. But looking at this playthrough, this still feels like it would be very frustrating and very difficult, and it doesn't seem like the level design or the gameplay mechanics are particularly unique, just because you've used a somewhat unique and lesser known Greek god's name for your game doesn't really mean much. She was also the goddess of the moon. Let's see. This game is discounted to $5.99 in English only. I don't see anything impressive enough there.
Science overwhelmed.
And then this.
Someday I'll be just like you.
And then this.
Time runs out on me.
And then this.
Done.
Next we have a game on Steam called Blood Will Be Spilled, which looks like it's tagged an RPG adventure action game. Yeah, it looks like a shoot 'em up, beat 'em up style game, platformer. Although I don't see a lot of enemies. Yeah, seems like a gun shooting style game while you're working through environments. I like the art style. I like the idea of the gameplay method. This doesn't look terrible. $13.49 is asking a lot for the price. Full English audio. I'll put this on the follow list, see if people are willing to pay that much. Next we have a game on Steam called Instinct Survival. I feel like this game has already been released on Steam, possibly 100 times before. Low effort asset flip survival game. Yeah, there's nothing here of any interest. Early access for $3.99 English only. Yep, nothing attractive about that game. We already covered the Delta Squad. We already covered Scat 3D. We already covered Our World Has Ended. We already covered that. I hope I'm not just accidentally closing tabs over that we've talked about. Gamma Citra has the same article. King co-founder Ricardo Coney stepping down. Let's see.
Job's done.
Let's see, where are we? TechRaptor has an article here. Modifius announces Agatha Christie death on the cards. is this a game or is this a tabletop game? I'm fairly certain this is a tabletop card-based game, not a video game. But if there's a video game, an Agatha Christie video game, that would be interesting. I'm sure there are several already, but not one I can really speak to. Just play all these cards. No reason I'm about to lose. I already talked about that game. Well, I can see the end of the road, but actually I guess we haven't even gotten to the Asian account as far as daily quests go. So there's a lot of gameplay I'm gonna have to play off screen at this rate. A lot of gameplay. Let's see. Maybe I would go instead of trying to get one more victory with the Hunter Mage. Maybe I'd go with trying to get 3 Tavern Brawls. That would kind of make sense. I kind of need to do both. Let's switch over to the Asian account because I think at the current rate I can maybe just play a couple more games and we'll wrap up because I'm running into a lot of redundant articles because my deduplicating plugin's not working. So here we have an article from Gamatsu. Tokyo Chronos for the PlayStation VR launches August 22nd in Japan. This is a virtual reality visual novel that launched on the PC on March 20th. So if we look at the Steam page, I can check to see if it has adult content first. Let's see, Paladin, and Paladin for the most part. And I need to do this Talon Brawl. And so we'll play this. Tokyo Chronos requires VR on PC, doesn't have any objectionable content, it looks like. This is a game that probably should be on my follow list though. If there is one good visual novel in VR, I should probably cover it if I ever do cover VR games. Although, I don't know what you really gain for having VR conversations like this when you could easily have converted this to a regular standard non-VR game. So, yeah, that's slightly interesting, I guess. Clone Ball. Your deck is made of random legendaries. He's also playing Clone Ball with random legendaries. This will be interesting. Next thing.
Time waits for no one.
I don't think I could target this with a spell, but let's try.
Let the dog. Let the dog.
Turn. I don't think we need to really talk about Azure Lane, the anime personification, anime girls personifying battleships. But yeah, they're adding more and more characters. So here's 4 more characters or 5 more characters that have been added to it. Doesn't really mean much of anything.
Jade Serpent guides.
I almost would play Azure Lane if I wasn't already playing Destiny Child, but I think Destiny Child is more open-ended as a concept because you're not having to name and sort of design each of these anime girls around a battleship, and the actual gameplay mechanic doesn't have to be built around battleships. I don't have that obsession of battleships like Japanese people do. And it's weird that Azure Lane is actually coming to the West, or came to the West, because it probably is one of those games that is going to be wildly popular in Japan and wildly unpopular in the rest of the world. Let's see. Let's do... Whenever a player casts a spell, I get one. So we can do this.
Jade Serpent guide you.
So that takes this down and fills this card. And then I can take this down by 3 again, I think. Which then I can play this.
This jungle hides many secrets. Chaos! Chaos!
My hand is too full.
Alright, moving on. Trying to cover all these news things. Doing it in a pretty monotone way. I guess that's kind of what I do, though, is that cool, calm, complete subtitle, whatever the 3 words are I put on my logo, is kind of me in a nutshell. Not going for the high energy announcements while reading video game news, but it kind of is more important news and more interesting news than just, at least to me, than reading yet another hype article around Borderlands 3 or something, which is what I imagine a lot of gamers are doing right about now. Just getting way too hyped on that game. For that game. TechRaptor has an article here. Bossa Studios Worlds Adrift is shutting down this summer. Worlds Adrift was a flying around MMO. It's being shut. The game in MMO is being shut down, not the company itself. So the thing I would say is Worlds Adrift did look like a interesting game when first announced, but never really got to a finished product as far as what I can tell. And so seems like they're giving up on it, and they probably got more money than they deserved in early access, and this is kind of a great example of what happens in early access. You end up having a significant number of games that don't get to anything close to a finalized product. I think we already talked about this article. TechRaptor has it again. Overwatch League Commissioner Nate Nazir is leaving Blizzard for Epic Games. Not surprising that a lot of people are leaving Blizzard. Not surprising that Epic Games is throwing its money around, its Fortnite money, to get some new talent and grow its company. Although we may find in the next few years that Epic grew too fast, too big, too fast, and they start laying off people too. Particularly as soon as Fortnite stops being interesting to a lot of people. I'm gonna lose here. TechRaptor has an article here. Halo Reach PC beta playable in some Microsoft stores during E3, which sounds slightly interesting, but I really wouldn't want to hang around a Microsoft store just to play a Halo beta. That seems kind of crazy. Meanwhile, I imagine the store people are going to be trying to sell you and telling you you need to buy a new Surface tablet or a new computer in general. I'm not even sure what they're really going to be selling at Microsoft stores or what they do sell. already talked about this article. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Rampart Tactics, which looks like a low effort placement RPG game. Looks like a single screen Unity type game too, and it effectively seems like it is just something like a characters playing on a chessboard. So $1.99, English only is the language, and is in no way impressive. Next we have a game on Steam called Thunder God, where clearly you're playing as Thor. Is this a VR game? Yes it is. So a VR game where you stand in one place and you're fighting giants instead of ice trolls, which would be more thematically correct. Although I guess these might be ice trolls or ice giants or something. It's a stand in one place and throw Thor's hammer, use Thor's hammer to fight things for 99 cents. It's not a terrible thought, certainly, but not an amazingly good thought either. $9.99, English only, full audio. It's such a gimmick. It really is. I don't see a reason to put it on the follow list. Even if I was to buy a VR headset, I don't think I'd ever be that big of a sucker to buy a game like this.
Shields up.
Next we have a game on Steam called Crisis in the Middle Ages, which looks like it might be just an RPG Maker style game. Maybe not actually made an RPG in this case, but yep, just looks like an old school RPG and not that interesting. Says it has a twist. It's got a, I guess maybe a Telltale spin to it, or an Undertale spin to it. That's what I meant to say. It's $1.19, English only. I don't see anything interesting here. Let's put that down.
Oh yes, they'll serve me now.
And then this.
Not in my contract.
I don't even know what Tavern Brawl I'm playing, so I don't know what the special effects are going to be when they happen. Let's see. Do we have anything that's a mech? Not really.
Protocol 7 engaged.
Suffer. No, no, no.
Next we have a game on Steam called Golden Key, which looks like a terribly animated simulation strategy game of some sort. This looks like just it's a Russian troll game. It's early access, $3.74, English and Russian. I would just call this a Russian troll game. Not even really understanding it any further than just briefly looking into screenshots. That's where I fall on that. Let's see, Troll 2 Demons. This. Return. Next we have a game on Steam called Legends of Catalonia, the Land of Barcelona. I don't think Catalonia and Barcelona are in the same area. So looks like this is a VR asset flip game. Yeah, that's what it looks like. It's free, so the price is right. Supports allegedly a whole bunch of languages, full audio, Japanese and Chinese and Spanish. That's almost certainly a lie. Just in no way looks like a good product. It just looks like an asset flip park product. So that's not making it to the fall list. Let's do this. Let's start this. Gamma Sutra has a blog here using sensitive triggers to make great jump scares and Close to the Sun. What do they mean by sensitive triggers? Let's see. Seems like they're looking at the viewer's perspective in a tight space, building tension, and then dropping a surprise. Well, no, actually sensitive triggers don't work that way.
So many
Bits and pieces of information based on the player's behavior in order to trigger the events that were planned out as accurately. So they were, I guess, maybe monitoring how fast you were walking, how long you were looking at something, things that would indicate whether you're actually paying attention or scared or not scared at all. I don't know. This is one of those blogs that's too inside baseball for me. It might be a really cool description of a coding concept, but it kind of doesn't mean much to most people. And I'm trying to finish all the news, so I don't have time to read blogs or development blogs in particular. Let's see.
At last, immortality.
Gematsu has an article here. Microsoft announces Bit Summit 7 Spirits lineup, which seems to be a event that runs from June 1st to 2nd in Kyoto. They're gonna be showing As Divine Hearts for Xbox One and Windows 10, a game called Fuga for Xbox One, The Good Life for Xbox One, La Mulana 2 for Xbox One and Windows 10, Sally's Law for Xbox One, and Vanbrandt's Cold Souls for Xbox One. Even though we know Vanbrandt's Cold Soul is also for PC, they're not marketing it that way. Okay, let's see what this does. Absolutely nothing. That was helpful. That would have been a cool spell to cast too. GameIndustry.biz has an article here. Sony Europe taken to court for alleged consumer rights violations. The ACCC, which I'm not sure what that stands for, alleges PlayStation Store refund policy does not reflect the consumer rights protected under the Australian law. So it's probably the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission. I wouldn't have ever guessed that if I didn't see it written down. So Australia is suing Sony Europe, which seems a little weird, but okay. Already talked about that. Next we have a game on Steam called Click Legends. This is a clicker game. I don't see any reason why I would ever want to play a clicker game. But yeah, it's here. It's $2.99. It doesn't have any in-app purchases. It has 80 achievements. It's probably an achievement game. So yeah. By the way, Clicker Heroes has a story that we'll talk about later, but it has been bamboozled, for the lack of a better term, I believe on the iOS App Store. And we'll cover that story in a moment as we try to burn through the last bits of these. Heal.
I was right all
Attack. Lost. Next we have a game on Steam called OT's Adventure 2. It seems like it's a Chinese adventure game, point and click game maybe. Animation looks like it's terrible and all over the place. The user interface looks like it's terrible and all over the place also. It's 10% off for $6.29. And yes, it's traditional Chinese and English, so yeah, it's a cheap Chinese game. No big surprise there. Next we have a game on Steam called Really King VR, which is a VR game where you're building and riding a motorcycle. It looks like garbage. 10% off for $8.99. English only is the language. Yeah, I don't see anything here interesting. It's not even a widescreen, which I don't know how that would look in VR, but I bet not good. Let's see. Your spell summon a random minion of the same cost. Next we have a game on Steam called Vectronom, which looks like a simplistic polygonal jumping rhythm game, which I probably could never play. It's a music game, since I don't have any rhythm, and it doesn't look particularly interesting. Why not play Crypt of the Necrodancer instead of this? This is $9.99. It says it supports a lot of languages. Yeah, I'm unimpressed. Alright. I want this. I don't want this or this. Only a few more pages. Hey, Lemon Lover came on the chat at some point. It said, Rydo, you should dive into the VR world. Well, at some point, if there was an actual second lifestyle VR world that everybody was playing on, and it became the new Twitter, the new Facebook, I might consider doing something like that and dive into that kind of VR world. But diving into playing VR games, right now I'm doing the follow list cleanup, and my follow list contains every VR game I've ever considered even slightly worth playing, and so far I have not seen a lot of games, quite frankly, and I don't think I will see a lot of games, so I can't really justify paying even cheaply and getting like a $200 VR headset, let alone potentially buying a $1,000 VR headset, which there's a variety in prices there. But I don't see enough games to justify that. It's just far too expensive. And it also falls out of relevancy because so few other people have VR that if I was to cover a VR game, I don't know what that video would even look like on YouTube. It probably wouldn't look too good. And
My pack will hunt you down.
and even if it did look good, so many other people would not have any interest in looking at it because they don't have VR. It's just far too niche. Gamatsu has an article here. Playism announces their Bit Summit 7 Spirits lineup for the same event. They're going to be showing everything for Steam, Switch, and PC. Necro Barista for Steam, and I guess they also sell the games directly from their own website. Orange Blood for PC, Outrider Mako for PC, Pixel Game Maker MV for Steam, Kuma Core, and Steel Sword Series, and then a Remix Game Jam winners will be announced. Not a lot of games there that would gather a lot of interest. I don't think this Bit Summit event would be one that needs to be mentioned a lot. Right. So, this and this. And this. Hit that. So I need to make room for one minion and then play this, and I could adapt all of them. Or just not make room and adapt them. I have so many duplicate tabs that I've gone through. We played one Paladin class card. But we got the Tavern Brawl done, and I'm just going to have a lot of extra work I'm going to have to do after this recording. And I think we're close to finishing this recording. It's not even been a super long one. It's barely been 2 hours and 45 minutes. So yeah, we got some more cards. They want probably great cards. I wouldn't be surprised if all of them get dusted once again. So I have extra work I need to do off screen this evening, while I have also extra work that I need to do while recording, while I also have extra work I need to do because of the solo adventure unlocking tomorrow. Here's an article I was talking about. Clicker Heroes was removed from the App Store after a Chinese company cloned it, claimed a trademark in China, and then requested a removal. So talk about ultimate sleazy here. Somebody cloned Clicker Heroes, which has been out for a long time and is well known, claimed a trademark in China, and of course China, the Chinese government would give the trademark to a Chinese company. This is straight up intellectual property theft. Let's see, the quote here is, "We're still shut down in China and I don't think there's any recourse, and I don't blame Apple for doing that. Changing our name in China kills any revenue we were getting in that region, and we'd have to trademark the new name or someone will just steal it again." So apparently they didn't trademark the name Clicker Heroes, which frankly shouldn't be trademarkable at all, in China specifically, or get a worldwide trademark, which maybe even a worldwide trademark is not enough. And this is probably true for a lot of small indie developers, that they just don't have the legal resources to go to every single country on the planet and try and trademark the name of your game. So some company can just clone it. Clicker Heroes was reinstated outside of China, but this is really like a very one-sided story. Clearly there's a bad guy, clearly there's a good guy. I don't think you could make the argument any other way. And this is kind of what's been happening in China for a long time, is that people have been making clones of games and selling them as if they were the originals and getting all the profit from somebody else's ideas or works. Moving on, we have an article here. Zynga, this is Gamma Sutra. Zynga sells its headquarters for $600 million to help finance acquisitions. So they sold their building. I wouldn't be surprised if Zynga needs some money for other reasons other than acquisitions, but I assume they're trying to buy acquisitions so that they can have new income sources because their older games are probably not selling that well. Next we have a game on Steam, and we only have a few more to show off. This one's called Moon Buggy. A Moon Buggy VR game. This looks relatively well polished, so it doesn't it's not something I can immediately reject. It's early access. It's $19.99, which is a little bit too expensive even for a VR game. It's English only, but I'll put this on the follow list and I'll give it a chance, see what people review it as. Although, again, even getting 20 reviews on a VR game is probably asking quite a lot. Was I really gonna put this game from last stream, Constructor Plus, on the follow list? Let's look at let's reload this page. Yeah, this game, Constructor Plus, looks weird, but it's rated positively as a SimCity style game. So I guess I'll put it on the follow list. I may have only had 2 or 3 games left over. TechRaptor has an article here. Star Ocean First Departure R set sail for the PlayStation and Nintendo Switch. I think we talked about this last stream also. Let's see. And then there's a game here called Dark Blood, which looks like a platformer game. Was I gonna put this on the follow list and give it a chance? Or is it reloaded? Doesn't have any more reviews. I guess I was gonna put it on the follow list and give it a chance. Okay. So then that puts me at the Humble Bundle store. And let's see if we've got any new bundles. The monthly bundle is not something I ever engage in. It doesn't seem like it's offering anything of interest to me. Let's see. The Tiny Build bundle is a bunch of Tiny Build games that I don't think I was particularly interested in. Right now I think I'm mostly just saving money for the Steam Summer Sale, which could happen at any point. I don't know the real date. There's a Vegas Pro bundle. I think I mentioned that for software. But yeah, there's no other game bundle, so no Humble Bundles worth mentioning. Then that brings me back to my Twitter feed, and Journey is coming to the Epic Games Store on June 6th, and that's interesting. Certainly. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 has got another teaser trailer that it's hyping that game way too much. Let's see. Google Play's new dev policies aim to improve child privacy and safety. An article from Gamasutra. I'll just mention the name. Date A Live Rio Reincarnated for the PS4 is delayed to July 23rd in North America, and so is the PC version. The European release is July 26th. It's a visual novel. London Detective Mysteria, we can talk about that on Friday. Sinrin Kagura Peach Ball launches July 9th on the Switch in North America. We can just mention that. And it comes Sinrin Kagura Reflections. Comes to PC June 24th. So 2 Sinrin Kagura. Wizardry Labyrinth of the Lost Souls for PC is delayed to summer. That doesn't look particularly interesting. Catherine Full Body E3 2019 After Party teases a surprise announcement. Maybe a Catherine 2. EA Play 2019's schedule has been announced by Gamatsu. I might talk about that on Friday. Ubisoft announces its lineup from Gamatsu. And I think that is it for new news that came out during this stream. So everybody that watched and everybody that subscribed and such, thank you. This was a kind of hectic stream in the sense that I was just trying to get through all the news and still kind of laid back in the energy department. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. When you subscribe, click the notification bell. If you want to further follow me on any other social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon. Or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Remember, the Steam Summer Sale is coming up. That'd be a great time to make a donation. Or you could just give me a gift card right now, and then I'd have more money to spend during the summer sale. Or if you wanted to see me play a specific game, gift me that game. That's fine too. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.